Hi, everyone. I am back, still part of my infinite dance, and I have yet another voice to add to this dance, which is Karey Fleming. And Karey and I met years ago, first as moms of babies, then as business owners. Um, and it was Karey that introduced me to my very first WEL-Systems conversation. So I'm loving being in conversation with you today, Karey. And it strikes me as well that in amongst all of that, we met through words, me as a writer, and when my first book came out, and you as an avid reader. So I look forward to exploring this whole infinite dance with you. I guess to start, maybe share a bit about your journey of evolution so far.
Yeah, actually, when you were talking about the weekend that you were an attendee, Holly Irons and I did our first WEL-Systems offering, and it was a weekend of conversation. I just got a new Mac, and I was cleaning off my old Mac, and I came across the poster that we had put together to market that weekend, and it was I just kind of giggled because you had just
Wow.
sent me that message. And I went, oh yeah, right. Like we did, I forgot about the baby and tots thing that we did together. And I had forgot, like this all seems like a lifetime ago.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So a little bit about me. Wow. That's always the big question, isn't it? And I'm very aware when people ask me that is my go-to has always been me as a productive woman in business. And at my age now, I'm winding down and I think I'm a little bit um, hesitant to use that as my go-to of who I am.
Yeah.
So I'm finding that really interesting at this stage of life. So I am a Nova Scotian. I'm married with a son who just moved out. That's big in our lives right now. He's been gone for a couple of months now. Um,
That
our
was the baby when we first met, right?
yeah. So he just turned 20, and he's a Boilermaker mechanic, and so he's traveling all over the place. He happens to be at the St. John refinery now. So we are empty nesters most of the time, although he comes home every once in a while for the weekend, he and the dog. Um, we live in Earltown on a lake, which I find has been very tranquil for me and has been very calming since COVID. Um, and I spend my time playing with the new title of fiber artist.
Oh,
And yeah, so I do sculptural weaving and rug hooking. I knit and crochet. So I have an art studio here, and I'm very mindful of the different roles I've played over the years, and I don't know that I've said that I'm a fiber artist out loud before. So that's going to be who I am in my intro for today.
perfect. Love it. Because, of course, when you're in an infinite dance and on an infinite journey, you're never the same person twice. We're always different from moment to moment and breath to breath. And some days that's more obvious than others.
Mhm.
So that's
There it is.
awesome. Now, fiber artist, so that's interesting expression, like a very tactile expression. But as I said, I've known you to be an avid reader and a very discerning reader. As I've been sharing when I wrote my first book, especially, but even the series, I was writing them firmly in the belief that I was writing them as a story of and for another person, when of course I was at the same time writing them for myself. And I know you're laughing because you knew this from the moment you read my first book, and you did everything you could to try to call me out on that. And I could not see what I couldn't see at that time. And Anyway, perhaps you would like to share a little bit about your experience, either in that particular instance or in your relationship with words over the years.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I have a really sketchy memory. So there's certain things that stand out very clearly, and a lot of my past that just doesn't. But that feeling I had when we were at the library and you were launching your Finding Maria, and it was a meet and greet and a reading, And I went because I just, as an avid reader, I really delve into books and I have questions and I have a lot of curiosities in terms of how the story is formatted. And you had talked about chakras in one of them, I think, and I had never really delved that deep into chakras at that point in time. So I had a lot of questions. And I don't remember the specifics, but I remember like having all these questions. And I think I was like constantly the whole time we were there, like, I have another
You
question.
were.
And I remember not being like satisfied with your answers. I remember feeling like she's not answering the question so that I'm satisfied to move on to the next question. And I'm sure in true Karey format, I probably dug and dug and poked and poked. But it's funny that you remember that as well.
I do. Because at the time, and again, this is before I encountered the WEL-Systems paradigm. So I had no process through which to understand or absorb what was happening to me in the course of encountering the story and writing these books, except I knew it was more than me, as I knew me to be. And so your inquiries were lighting me up, but at the same time, it was like, well, I don't have any more to say. And that niggling, sensation of, well, yes, there is more to say, but no, you can't say that here. So there were a lot of internal things firing off at the time. And I came away from it feeling grateful. Gratitude was what landed on the top of all of that, that you had noticed and you were willing to make those inquiries. Um, it was as if it was a harbinger of things to come in terms of being in conversation with awake and aware women, and women not afraid of themselves, not afraid of inquiring in anything that, you know, that leads to their own evolution. So yeah, it remains a very clear memory, and I've been thinking over the years I will come back to that as I come to yet another awareness about my writing or through my writing or with the books, that yeah, Karey knew that first. Or at least she was the first to put words
That,
to
and
what I think many people were thinking.
I think back, and I'm not sure that I knew that there was more to the story. And we're patiently waiting for this book that you've been writing, reveal all of that. I
Mhm.
just think there was a knowing inside that there were questions and curiosities that I had from the book, and then you weren't able to answer for me. And so I left kind of like, I don't get it. Like there's something there, and not knowing what it was, not there was no words for it. There was just like, yeah, my curiosities and questions didn't get answered. So it's that deep inside knowing in the body that there's a truth to be revealed, there's something that's not being revealed, and I didn't have words for it at the time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, and that has continued. And so in developing this experience that I look forward to giving in August in Chelsea, you were on my mind as well, because it's as if this journey is almost coming, well, it never goes in circles, but it always goes in a spiral. And I could feel that very clearly, looping around. So I'm curious, you being the avid reader that you are, of your experience with words in terms of your journey of evolution, be that words you've read and or words that you've written. How have words been? What role have they played in your journey?
Hmm. I would say up until the point that I got involved with WEL-Systems, like 15, 16, I can't remember, like 17 years ago, maybe. I had not journaled. That wasn't, I had written poems a bit in high school. I had, you know, done journaling as it related to any assignments we would have at school. Actually, now that I say that, I think I might have been 11 or 12, and I had a 4-year-old cousin pass away of a brain tumor. And it had a profound impact on me. And the English teacher had asked us to journal every morning. Um, and it was just a free journal. There was no structure to it. She didn't give you prompts. It was just you came in, and that was what we did at the beginning of every class. And I journaled about my cousin Garth for that entire year, and I kept it. And it's in the basement in the spare bedroom. I'm gonna pull it out after we get off this call. I had forgotten about that until right now. And I remember at the time, like, back then, and maybe even still today in some families, you didn't talk about feelings. And you didn't talk about, we certainly didn't. I don't remember anyone sitting me down and saying, what was this like for you? Or how are you feeling about this? Or sitting me down and saying, okay, this is what the funeral is going to be like. And so I think that journal experience was the only avenue I had to get all of that out. Um, not knowing that at the time, but looking back, I'm sure that's what it was. And so that was probably my first and last journal experience until I started engaging with the WEL-Systems body of knowledge and doing retreats. And I wouldn't say I'm a writer. And again, there's that title. I can say I'm a fiber artist now, but I wouldn't say I have written, but I wouldn't say I'm a writer. Avid reader, yes. And yet I have books upon books around my house of journals. And I know that for me, mine is the spoken word. Like I would, for my own processing of emotion, I will go to a video, even though I may never share the video. I will take a video of me talking about something in order for my body to process, because writing doesn't have the same charge for me as speaking. So sometimes I'll write and then I'll read it to someone to be witnessed. And that's where I get the processing and the emotion and really help get out what I'm trying to say and what I feel. But sometimes it starts with journaling and sometimes I go straight to video.
Mm-hmm. Wow, you
Oh
brought
boy.
yeah, that's a fascinating point, Carey, because for me, I can remember when I was first invited to do video, and and you or I have kind of at the age where we didn't grow up with this technology, and we kind of encountered it a little
Now,
later in life.
speak for yourself, Jennifer.
You being much younger than I am, probably have more experience than I. But as you were speaking about, your use of video to be able to talk it out, and then share it if you choose. For me, what came up, what you know, I feel the power in that, and I also feel the resistance because I go immediately to performance and mindful that, of course, my writing at that time was fairly automatic, meaning I could just sit and write and not think about it. And so I was able to access places that I couldn't otherwise because the performance anxiety, as I had labeled it at that time, didn't get there. Um, but as my writing deepened and as I awakened, and interestingly enough, my words started to dry up um, because my intellect caught on that, hey, that looks like a straight conduit to your divine, and where are all the stops and the controls and the editing and censoring and calibration. Um, and so it's only been recently, it's been in creating this experience, this infinite dance, that I'm doing video with an ease I haven't had before, and with an excitement that I haven't felt before, as in, I can't wait to get on this call with you, rather than spending the last hour trying to script it and trying to calm myself down enough so I can speak without quivering. Um, so I share that because, it's witnessing how we can change how we interact with the world. We can change our expressions in the world simply by acknowledging from the inside out of who we are and what we want. Um, so I'm wondering, in your experience of reading and or writing, if that remains a companion for you now that you've identified fiber arts as a very clear expression of yourself right now.
Hmm. No, I think with the fiber art, it's very much it's a feeling, it's a sensory experience. I don't plan any of my, like, I don't take to paper and plan what I'm going to do. Um, I'm a very much jump in 2 feet first and then just figure it out and trial and error and like rip out and redo. And yeah, but I have taken some courses online. I tend to be more of an auditory learner versus a reading learner. I read for pure enjoyment. Is that what you mean? Am I
Yeah,
answering? Yeah.
you are. Yeah, just whatever came up for you with that question, and yeah, that's brilliant, and that makes perfect sense. Um, are there certain types of books that you're drawn to?
Um, I tend to go by the cover. Like if something draws me for whatever reason, whether it be the color or the picture. Um, I don't often go to the bookstore. I don't often go to the library. I tend to see books like at coffee shops and or like secondhand stores, and I also go by what people have recommended. So I've read a little bit of everything, and I've just actually now started my first book club, which is pretty exciting. And we're reading Sean Leonard's Spirit Talker, which somewhat of an autobiography, somewhat of a native teachings, a lot about spirituality. And I read everything from that to mystery, or I'm not a Harlequin romance kind of girl. Although I did read 50 Shades of Grey. Don't tell anybody.
Too late.
Yeah, I mean, I'll pick up anything. And if I'm in the first, 50 pages and I'm loving it, I keep going. And if I don't, then I put it down.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And since you brought it up, I too read 50 Shades of Grey, or as best as I could, because it was literally given to me because so many people were reading it, and hey, you should see what this is about. So out of curiosity, I started reading it. And in all honesty, I just found it so badly written. I struggled to finish it, so I skimmed. And when a scene caught my eye, I stopped. And after a while, even those scenes were boring. So I that was my experience with it. But I found it just curious to observe the conversations that were going on as a result of those books and how people seem to love them or despise them, and what were the reasons behind each. And what kept coming up for me was substance. People who loved the books took them to be just a complete escape read, very, something light and naughty, but just, completely to get away from the world. And those who despised them loved books for the deepening awareness and connection to the human experience. So I initially was among all those other authors going, well, how come she's a billionaire and we're not? So yes, jealousy
Sex
is
for
rare.
more.
Just rear its ugly head every now and then. But at the end of the day, I was grateful for the type of writer that I was and the work that I was producing still, because I always had that sense that the books that I was writing were first and foremost for me. And the fact that other people were taking interest in the story was gratifying. But it was the first time I had written something not for an external audience. So, um, very interesting shift in perspective there. So anyway, just one final question because yeah, now I'm really curious. When you mentioned that you have stacks of journals, as you have, stacks of books in your home, but don't consider yourself a writer, tell me a bit about how you hold that construct of writer. What is it to be a writer in your view?
Yeah, it's really interesting because I have this really concrete example with a mutual friend of ours, Catherine, who has gone around the world and done triathletes and Ironmans and that sort of thing. And she can very easily call herself an athlete and a runner. And I ran off and on, 5K for 20, 30 years and never, ever in a million years would I call myself an athlete or a runner. And so, yeah, there's something about putting this title on something that I can call myself. And there's something around judgment about how good I am at it in comparison to other people. Um, would I call myself a writer if I never had anything published? That probably has something to do with it. Um, to be quite honest with you, I'm really not interested in calling myself a writer. I I don't know that I'm really interested in calling myself anything anymore that has a title. Um, that's kind of where I am in life right now. And I've had 101 conversations about this title thing. Um, because I used to hold myself as an entrepreneur, and that was like super important in terms of my identity. And I don't really know why. I think yeah, of course I know why.
We
It's
always know.
I mean, it's all about external referencing and how the world sees me and where do I hold importance?
Mhm.
And it's all a comparison thing. And it's not who I am, it's a role I play. It's a big role that I've played over the past 26 years that I've owned a business, but it's not who I am. Just like mother isn't who I am. It's a very important role I play, not who I am.
Yeah, and as you're speaking, Carrie, what I'm feeling coming up for me is that whole um, external reference construct. We're in a world that craves labels and craves quick and easy identification. And I found when I got into the publishing side of books, the traditional system that exists to distribute and sell books, um, that craves labels as well. There are categories and subcategories and all kinds of systems to, um, you know, quickly identify in two blinks what a book is about. And yeah, I've not ever been interested in that either. And I can recall, when meeting people and, oh, what do you do? Or, that sort of thing. Inevitably, I would say, well, I'm a writer. And instantly there would be a reaction of some kind. And I would be taken aback by that because all of a sudden I'm realizing that I don't know what they're expecting next. Because writer could be anything from, yeah, a multi-million dollar selling, well-known author to, what I was doing, which was essentially, freelance, a little bit of everything, to, in my view, a writer being somebody who is lit up by the prospect of sitting with a journal or a screen or however, just allowing words to flow and allowing those words to speak back to them for whatever insights there are. So, yeah, I totally feel where you're coming from, and I share some of that. If there was an easy way to sum up what I did using another word, um, but there isn't. And so, uh, yeah, writer to me means any manner of things. It has nothing to do with commercial success or even, physical publication. Uh, it's more to do with the journey and using words for that journey. And I mean, it's no coincidence that good writers are good readers. It's that interface within yourself, the allowance to take in other people's words and let them touch you, as well as the willingness to share yours for whatever is
Mm.
meaningful. So,
Jennifer,
Carrie, oh, sorry, go
when,
ahead.
when you were talking there, I started thinking in the world we live in, but also the English language is so label oriented. And I think about what I've learned about native cultures, and their language is more descriptive. So if you were to think about the role of writer or author in a descriptive way, how would you describe yourself versus the label of writer or author?
Mm, that's an interesting question. And I don't know if I have words for that right now, but it is a great line of inquiry. Um,
I remember someone saying, um, it was way back in the day when I was online dating, like 20 some odd years ago. And someone had said that they were a lover of words. And that stuck with me because it could be writing, reading, painting, like it could be. I just thought that was really an interesting thing to say about yourself.
yeah, I do. I agree. I see words as, little stars in a sense, or bits of energy that can be strung together in any number of ways and journeys. And I see them as lighting the way to somewhere. Um, and I guess in thinking of it that way, when I look back on my career and I got into writing, simply it was an intellectual pursuit for me, and a path of least resistance in the sense that was seemed to be the one thing I could do that I didn't have to work terribly hard at, and people were willing to pay me. So why not do that? It's only been recently when I've been really owning my choice of living a life fueled by words and writing rather than using writing as a tool to maintain or create some form of life. Yeah. So how would I descriptively share that with somebody who's asking? I guess it would depend on the person, because sometimes when I start talking from an infinite perspective rather than the intellectual perspective, you can see the eyes kind of widen in fear or glaze over, going, "Oh, she's one of those." Oh, look, my drink's empty. Talk to you later. Exactly. So, but you're right. Part of the infinite dance is to never stop questioning, never stop inquiring within ourselves as to what words mean, because the meaning of words can certainly shift as our perspectives shift, and as our well, for me, as my horizons broaden and as I reclaim more of myself. Um, yeah, things don't hold the same meaning as they did. So it always continues.
The
Anyway,
question is, am I going to get my hands on that last book?
well, there's the question, but I will say that, I had planned earlier this year to designate the summer as a writing summer. I've got a couple of projects on the go, and this book has been weighing. I won't say it's weighing heavily on me now, but it's definitely there, almost like early labor pains, going, okay, come on, time to get on with this. Um, and then this impulse to go to Chelsea for the weekend. Uh, I'm feeling as very much an alignment of that. I'm feeling like what I will create in Chelsea will be almost moving myself the next level to getting this done. I hold I hold the intention of having at least a completed draft by the end of the year. Um, I can see potentially a launch next year. I'm holding that as an intention, but I notice as I am, even in the course of doing these conversations, I can picture my book with more clarity than I ever have had. To this point, in the last number of years, I've been literally drowning in content, I think, because I've had so many memories and so many snapshots, and it's been coming out at random because I've been holding it so closely, so it would go spurt, spurt, flash. Now I'm actually seeing a pattern. I've let go of it enough and opened enough, a combination of the two things, I think, that lets me see it, how at least a potential flow for it. All the pieces are there. I think I've written it at least 4 times, but it's just all in assorted files and journals and forms and notepaper and drafts. So once I can see again the map and feel the flow of it, it's just a matter of putting it together. So
Well, I've got the other books sitting in my room as my old journal, waiting to reread them, because I want to start from the beginning and go. I've shared the books with so many people. Yeah, I super enjoyed them.
well, thank you for that, Carrie. And I will be sure to give you a heads up so you have enough reading time
Yeah.
to prep yourself before the launch. And then I will get you a copy as soon as possible because I'll want you to bring your questions for when we meet again.
Watch out for what you wish for, Jennifer.
I know, I know. So I don't say that lightly. I mean, that means I'm really ready to dance.
Amazing.
Oh, so always a pleasure, Carrie. Thank you for this. And I look forward to whenever we talk again.
Okay. Thanks, Jennifer.
I know.